The plane touched down on the tarmac, and as the wheels screeched against the runway, Anna felt a flutter of excitement in her chest. Los Angeles, the city of angels, awaited them. She turned to Mark, her husband of 10 years, and saw a flicker of anticipation in his eyes, masked by his usual composed demeanor. "Here we are," Anna said, smiling. "Yep," Mark replied, unbuckling his seatbelt. "Let's get our bags and see what this city has to offer." They disembarked and made their way through the bustling airport, the air buzzing with the energy of travelers from all corners of the globe. The sun greeted them warmly as they stepped outside, casting a golden hue over everything it touched. The sky was a brilliant shade of blue, unmarred by clouds, and the palm trees swayed gently in the breeze. Anna took a deep breath, savoring the moment. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Mark nodded. "It is. Let's get to the hotel and plan our day." They hailed a taxi and soon found themselves weaving through the lively streets of Los Angeles. The city was a tapestry of cultures, each street offering a glimpse into a different world. Skyscrapers towered above, casting long shadows over the eclectic mix of shops, restaurants, and street vendors below. Their hotel, a charming boutique establishment in the heart of downtown, was a welcome sight. They checked in, and as they entered their room, Anna couldn't help but admire the view from the window. The city sprawled out before them, a mosaic of lights and life. "Let's sit for a bit," Mark suggested, dropping his suitcase by the bed. "We can decide where to go first." Anna agreed, and they settled into the plush armchairs by the window. She pulled out a map of the city, and they began to discuss their plans. "I'd love to see the Griffith Observatory," Anna said. "The view of the city and the stars must be incredible." "Sure, we can do that," Mark replied. "And maybe we can check out some of the museums. The Getty Center has some amazing art collections." Anna nodded, her mind already wandering to the possibilities. "And what about the beach? I'd love to spend a day just relaxing by the ocean." "Sounds good," Mark said. "We can take a drive up the coast, maybe visit Malibu." They continued to talk, their excitement growing with each new idea. Anna couldn't help but notice how Mark's face lit up as he spoke about the places they would visit. Despite his often practical and reserved nature, there was a spark of curiosity and wonder in him that she adored. After a while, they decided to take a walk and explore the area around their hotel. The streets were alive with activity, a constant hum of conversations, laughter, and the occasional honk of a car horn. Street performers entertained passers-by with music and acrobatics, while the aroma of various cuisines wafted through the air. As they walked, Anna observed the people around them. There were tourists like themselves, eyes wide with amazement, locals going about their daily routines, and a noticeable number of homeless individuals, some sitting quietly with signs asking for help, others pushing carts filled with their belongings. "There's so much diversity here," Anna remarked. "It's like a melting pot of different worlds." Mark glanced around, his expression neutral. "Yeah, it's interesting, but it's also a reminder of the reality of big cities." Anna could sense a shift in his tone, a hint of the practicality that often bordered on cynicism. She decided not to push the conversation further and instead focused on enjoying the sights and sounds around them. They stopped at a small cafe, its exterior adorned with colorful murals. Inside, the atmosphere was cozy and inviting, with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. They ordered 2 lattes and found a table by the window. As they sipped their drinks, Anna felt a sense of contentment. "I'm really glad we decided to come here," she said softly. When they finished their drinks, they continued their walk, eventually finding themselves at a park. Children played on the swings. Couples strolled hand in hand, and the occasional jogger passed by. Anna and Mark found a bench and sat down, taking in the serene surroundings. "It's nice to just sit and relax," Anna said, leaning against Mark. "Yeah, it is," he agreed, putting an arm around her. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the city, Anna felt a deep sense of gratitude. She knew that this trip would be more than just a vacation. It would be an opportunity to reconnect, to explore not only a new place, but also the depths of their relationship. "Let's make the most of this trip," she said, looking up at Mark. He smiled, a rare softness in his eyes. "Absolutely." Anna and Mark stepped out of their hotel, the morning sun already casting long shadows on the bustling streets of downtown Los Angeles. The city was awake, alive, with the sounds of car horns, chatter, and the occasional melody from a street performer's guitar. They walked hand in hand, navigating through the sea of people. The streets were a vibrant mix of cultures and faces, a tapestry of humanity moving in every direction. High-rise buildings loomed overhead, their glass facades reflecting the relentless activity below. Anna's attention was drawn to a group of tourists snapping photos in front of an Art Deco theater. Nearby, a food truck served breakfast burritos to a line of hungry office workers. The aroma of sizzling bacon and fresh coffee filled the air, blending with the scents of the city. As they continued, Anna couldn't help but notice the stark contrast around them. Designer boutiques and upscale cafes stood side by side with dilapidated buildings and graffiti-covered walls. Amidst the luxury, the homeless were a constant presence, sitting quietly with signs, pushing carts filled with their belongings, or simply lying on the sidewalk, covered in worn blankets. "It's heartbreaking, isn't it?" Anna said softly, nodding towards an elderly man huddled in a doorway. Mark glanced over and shrugged. "It's a big city. You can't expect everyone to be doing well." "I know, but so many people without homes. It just feels wrong." "They have shelters," Mark replied, his tone matter-of-fact. "And a lot of them choose this life. They don't want to follow the rules in shelters or get help." Anna frowned. "I don't think it's that simple. There must be more to their stories." "Maybe," Mark said, non-committal. "But you can't help everyone. You have to focus on those who are willing to help themselves." They walked in silence for a while, each lost in their thoughts. Anna's heart ached for the people she saw, but she knew Mark's views were grounded in his belief in personal responsibility. It was a point of contention they had never fully resolved. They reached a busy intersection, where the traffic lights seemed to orchestrate a chaotic dance of cars and pedestrians. On the corner, a woman with a child in a stroller held a sign that read, "Please help. God bless." Anna slowed her pace, her eyes lingering on the pair. Mark noticed and sighed. "Don't start, Anna. We're here to enjoy ourselves." "I can't just ignore it," Anna said, her voice tinged with frustration. "Look at her. She has a child." "And what do you propose we do?" Mark asked, his tone sharp. "Give her money? It's not going to solve anything." "Maybe not, but it might make her day a little easier." Mark shook his head. "You're too soft-hearted. It's not going to change anything in the long run." Anna bit her lip, holding back a retort. She knew this wasn't the time or place for a deeper argument. Instead, she approached the woman and handed her a few dollars. The woman's eyes lit up with gratitude. "Thank you, ma'am." "God bless you," the woman said, her voice filled with emotion. Anna smiled and rejoined Mark, who looked exasperated. "You're going to get us into trouble one day," he muttered. "I'd rather be in trouble for being kind than for ignoring someone in need," Anna replied quietly. They continued their walk, the tension between them palpable. The streets grew busier as the morning progressed, with more people flooding the sidewalks. Anna marveled at the diversity around them, from the business professionals in sharp suits to the artists sketching in notebooks on park benches. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Anna and Mark found themselves wandering into a less bustling part of downtown Los Angeles. The energy of the day had shifted, replaced by a more somber atmosphere. The streets were quieter, the sidewalks lined with makeshift tents and huddled figures. Anna noticed a woman standing beside a tattered tent. She held a cardboard sign that read, "Please help. I have children to feed." Her eyes, though weary, held a glimmer of hope as she appealed to passers-by. "Mark, wait," Anna said, her steps slowing. "Look at her." Mark followed her gaze and sighed. "Anna, we can't help everyone. We've talked about this. I know, but just look at her. She has children. We could do something, even if it's small." Before Mark could respond, the woman approached them. "Please, can you spare some change? Anything will help. God bless you," she pleaded, her voice trembling with desperation. Anna's heart ached for the woman. She reached into her purse, pulling out a few dollars. "Here. I hope this helps," she said softly, extending her hand. Mark's face hardened. "Stop it, Anna. You're not helping her by giving her money." Anna turned to him, confused and hurt. "What do you mean? She needs help, and we can give it." Mark stepped forward, his tone cold and sharp. "You need to stop begging and find a job. You're setting a terrible example for your kids," he snapped. "You're a parasite." The woman's eyes widened, and she recoiled, as if struck. Anna gasped, feeling as if the harsh words had been directed at her. "Mark, that's enough," she said, her voice shaking. "You don't know her situation." Ignoring Anna, Mark reached into his pocket, pulling out a few crumpled wrappers. He tossed them into the woman's bucket. "Here's something for your trouble," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. The woman stared at the trash, her face a mask of shock and sorrow. She whispered, "Thank you," her voice barely audible, and retreated to her tent, clutching the bucket. Anna stood frozen, her mind reeling. She had always known Mark to be practical, sometimes overly so, but this was a side of him she had never seen. "How could you?" she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. Mark shrugged, indifferent. "She needs a reality check, not a handout. Maybe this will motivate her to change." Anna felt a surge of anger and despair. She turned away, her eyes searching for a place to escape the moment. She wanted to scream, to cry, but most of all, she wanted to understand how the man she loved could be so cruel. As they walked in silence, the city seemed to close in on her. The once vibrant streets now felt oppressive, the faces of the homeless haunting her. Every step felt heavy, every glance a reminder of the harsh reality she had just witnessed. They reached a small park and sat on a bench, the silence between them thick with tension. Anna stared at the ground, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and sadness. Mark leaned back, seemingly unfazed, his expression unreadable. "Mark," Anna began, her voice barely above a whisper, "I can't believe you did that. What happened to you?" "Nothing happened to me, Anna. I'm just being realistic. You can't save everyone, and sometimes tough love is the only answer." "But that wasn't love. That was cruelty," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't understand how you can be so heartless." Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm not heartless. I'm practical. You're too idealistic. You think you can solve everything with kindness, but the world doesn't work that way." Anna felt a tear slip down her cheek. "Maybe not, but we don't have to make it worse. We can choose to be kind, to show empathy. That woman, She needed hope, not humiliation. Mark was silent, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Anna wondered if he felt any regret, any hint of the man she once knew. She wiped her tears, taking a deep breath. "I need some time to think," she said, finally standing up. "I'm going back to the hotel." Mark watched her go, his face still set in stone. As Anna walked away, she felt a chasm open between them, a gulf that kindness alone might not bridge. But she knew she had to try, for the sake of her heart, and the man she still hoped Mark could be. Back at the hotel, Anna's mind raced. The evening light filtered through the curtains, casting long shadows across the room. She couldn't shake the image of the homeless woman and Mark's cold, harsh words. She felt a knot in her stomach, an uneasy mix of anger and sorrow. "Mark, we need to talk," Anna said, breaking the heavy silence as they entered their room. Mark dropped his bag by the door and sighed. "I know what you're going to say." Anna turned to face him, her eyes searching his for any sign of remorse. "Do you? Do you really understand how cruel you were?" He crossed his arms and leaned against the wall. "Anna, you're overreacting. I was just being honest. Sometimes the truth hurts, but it's necessary." "Necessary?" Anna echoed, her voice rising. "You humiliated her. You treated her like she was nothing." Mark's expression hardened. "And what did you want me to do? Give her money so she can stay on the streets and beg some more? That doesn't help her, Anna. It just keeps her in the same place." Anna shook her head, struggling to keep her emotions in check. She needed kindness, not your version of tough love. What happened to you, Mark? You used to be so compassionate. "I'm still compassionate," he retorted, "but I'm also realistic. People have to help themselves. No one's going to hand them a new life on a silver platter." Anna felt tears pricking at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them back. She needed to understand. "Why are you so angry at them? It's like you see them as enemies." Mark looked away, a flicker of something unreadable passing over his face. "I'm not angry at them. I'm angry at the system that lets people fall through the cracks. But enabling them doesn't fix the problem." Anna took a deep breath, trying to keep her voice steady. "But your anger is misdirected. It's not their fault that the system is broken. They're the victims, not the villains." Mark turned back to her, his gaze intense. "Anna, I'm not heartless. I want to see people succeed. But I've seen too many people waste their lives waiting for help that never comes. Sometimes you have to shock them into reality." "That's not your job," Anna said softly. "Your job is to be human, to show empathy. We can't know everyone's story. We don't know what led that woman to where she is." Mark looked up, his eyes hardening. "I did what I thought was necessary. She needs to wake up and take control of her life." Anna's frustration boiled over. "Necessary? Mark, you treated her like she was less than human. You don't know her story. You don't know what she's been through." "And you do?" Mark shot back, standing up. "You think giving her a few dollars is going to change anything? It's just a band-aid on a much bigger problem." "But it's something," Anna insisted, tears welling in her eyes. "It's a gesture of kindness. Sometimes that's all people need to find a little hope." Mark shook his head, his frustration evident. "Hope won't put a roof over her head or food on her table. She needs to take action, not rely on handouts." Anna felt a pang of sorrow. "Why are you so angry at them? It's like you blame them for their circumstances." Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know, Anna. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just can't stand seeing people give up." "Give up?" Anna's voice broke. "You're the one giving up. You're giving up on compassion, on empathy. I don't recognize you anymore." Mark's eyes flashed with hurt. "You think I don't care? I care too much. I just want them to realize they can change their own lives." "But not everyone has that luxury," Anna said, her voice softer now. "Not everyone has the strength or the means. Sometimes they need a little help to get back on their feet." Mark was silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Anna wiped her tears, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. "I don't know if I can live with someone who can't see that, who can't show a little kindness." Mark looked at her, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. "Anna, I'm trying to be practical. Life isn't easy, and sometimes you have to be tough." "Tough?" Anna scoffed. "You were cruel, Mark. There's a difference." The room fell silent again, the air thick with tension. Anna turned away, unable to look at him. She felt a deep ache in her chest, a fear that the man she loved was slipping away from her. "Maybe we need some time apart," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need to think about what this means for us." Mark's face paled. "Anna, don't say that. We can work through this." "Can we?" Anna replied, her voice shaking. "Because right now, I don't see how." Mark took a step towards her, his expression desperate. "Anna, please, I love you. We can find a way." Anna shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I love you too, Mark. But love isn't enough if we can't agree on something as fundamental as compassion." Mark stood there, his shoulders slumped, as Anna grabbed her coat and walked to the door. "I need some air," she said, her voice breaking. "I'll be back." He watched her go, the door closing with a soft click that seemed to echo through the room. Mark sat down heavily on the bed, his mind racing. He felt a deep sense of loss, a fear that he might have pushed Anna too far. Outside, Anna walked the streets of Los Angeles, the city lights blurring through her tears. She didn't know where she was going, but she needed to get away, to clear her head. The argument replayed in her mind, each word cutting deeper than the last. She found herself in a small park, the sounds of the city a distant hum. She sat there for a long time, lost in her thoughts, before finally heading back to the hotel. The walk back was slow, each step heavy with the weight of their unresolved conflict. When Anna finally returned to the room, she slipped into bed, turning her back to Mark. Anna lay awake in the darkness, the faint hum of the city outside their hotel room a constant reminder of the world moving on, indifferent to her turmoil. She stared at the ceiling, thoughts racing, unable to find solace in sleep. The argument with Mark had left her emotionally drained and deeply unsettled. She turned her head to look at Mark, who lay beside her, his face softened in sleep but still reflecting the tension of the day. How had they come to this point? She wondered, her mind drifting back to the early days of their relationship. They had met in college, both idealistic and full of dreams. Mark had been passionate about social justice, always ready to lend a hand to those in need. Anna remembered the time he had organized a fundraiser for a local shelter, his enthusiasm infectious. He had been kind, empathetic, and deeply committed to making a difference. Their relationship had blossomed quickly, fueled by shared values and mutual respect. They had promised each other to always stay true to their principles, to support one another in their quests to make the world a better place. Mark's warmth and compassion had drawn Anna in, making her feel safe and understood. But somewhere along the way, something had changed. The man who had once been her partner in empathy had become hardened, his idealism replaced by cynicism. Anna recalled moments over the past few years when Mark's attitude had shifted, becoming increasingly critical of those less fortunate. She had brushed off these changes, attributing them to the pressures of work and life. Now, she couldn't ignore them any longer. Anna closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks as she relived the hurtful words Mark had spoken to the homeless woman. She felt a deep ache in her chest, a sense of betrayal not just towards the woman, but towards the man she'd loved. Was this the same person who had once stood beside her, fighting for the underdog? The night stretched on, and Anna's thoughts turned to their future. Could she continue to live with someone who had lost his compassion? Could she bridge the growing chasm between them? She knew that she couldn't go on like this, feeling increasingly alienated from the person she had committed her life to. In the quiet darkness, Anna made a decision. She needed to understand what had driven the change in him and whether there was any hope of rekindling the empathy that had once defined their relationship. As dawn began to break, casting a pale light into the room, Anna felt a surge of determination. She would not give up without a fight. She would seek out the homeless woman, offer her an apology, and try to learn more about her story. Maybe understanding this woman's journey could help Anna understand her own and Mark's. When the first rays of sunlight streamed through the curtains, Anna quietly slipped out of bed. She got dressed, careful not to wake Mark, and wrote a note explaining that she needed some time to think and would be back later. She placed it on the nightstand and left the room, her heart heavy but resolute. The morning sun was just beginning to rise as Anna stepped out of the hotel, the crisp air a welcome contrast to the tension that had filled the room all night. She walked with purpose, retracing her steps from the previous day, determined to find the woman she and Mark had encountered. The city was starting to awaken, the streets coming to life with the hum of early commuters and the occasional jogger. Anna's heart pounded as she approached the area where they had seen the woman. She scanned the scene, her eyes settling on the familiar tent. The woman was there, sitting beside it, her posture weary but her expression calm. Anna took a deep breath and walked over. "Excuse me," Anna said gently, her voice trembling slightly. "Do you remember me from yesterday?" The woman looked up, her tired eyes showing a flicker of recognition. "Yes, I remember. You're the one who tried to help." Anna nodded, swallowing her nervousness. "I came back to apologize for what happened. My husband, he shouldn't have treated you that way. It was wrong, and I'm so sorry." The woman's face softened and she gave a small nod. "Thank you. It's not the first time I've been treated like that, but it still hurts." Anna felt a lump in her throat. "Can I sit with you? I'd like to hear your story if you're willing to share." The woman gestured to the spot beside her. "Of course. My name is Lisa." "Anna," she replied, sitting down on the cold concrete. "I want to understand what brought you here." Lisa sighed, looking down at her hands. "It's a long story, but I'll tell you. I used to be a teacher, loved my job, loved my students. But then the school I worked at got shut down. Budget cuts, they said." Anna listened intently as Lisa continued. "I tried to find another teaching job, but it was tough. The market was saturated and no one was hiring someone my age. I did odd jobs here and there, but it wasn't enough to keep up with the bills. Eventually, I lost my apartment. My savings dried up, and I ended up here." "I'm so sorry, Lisa," Anna said softly. "That must have been incredibly difficult." "It was," Lisa admitted, her voice heavy with emotion. "But the hardest part was feeling like I'd failed. I used to help kids find their way in the world, and now I can't even help myself." Anna felt a surge of empathy. You didn't fail, Lisa. The system failed you, and it's wrong that you're in this situation. Lisa shrugged. Maybe, but it doesn't change where I am now. Anna hesitated, then reached out to touch Lisa's arm. Is there anything I can do to help? Anything at all? Lisa shook her head. I appreciate the offer, but I don't want charity. I just want people to see me, to understand that I'm not just some statistic. I'm a person with a story. Anna nodded, her eyes misting. Thank you for sharing your story with me. It means a lot, and I promise I'll do what I can to help others understand. Lisa gave her a small smile. That's all I can ask for. As they sat in silence, Anna felt a deep connection with Lisa. She realized that her own struggles with Mark were part of a larger picture, a world where compassion and understanding were often in short supply. She knew she needed to take this experience back to Mark to help him see the human side of the issues they had been arguing about. Lisa, I have to go now, but I want you to know that you've made a difference in my life. I'll be back to visit if that's okay. Lisa nodded. You're welcome anytime, Anna. Thank you for listening. As Anna walked back to the hotel, her mind was racing with thoughts and emotions. She knew that the conversation with Lisa had changed her, and she hoped it would help change Mark as well. She needed to make him see that kindness and empathy were not weaknesses, but strengths. Anna returned to the hotel, her steps heavy with the weight of the morning's encounter. She found Mark sitting in the small lounge area, a cup of coffee in hand, staring blankly out the window. He looked up as she entered, his expression a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Hey, he said, his voice uncertain. Where have you been? Anna took a deep breath and sat down opposite him. I went to see Lisa, the woman we met yesterday. Mark's brow furrowed. Why? Because I needed to understand her story, Anna replied, and because I think you need to hear it too. He nodded slowly, setting his coffee aside. Okay, I'm listening. Anna began to recount Lisa's story, her voice steady but filled with emotion. She told him about Lisa's years as a teacher, the joy she found in her work, and the heartbreak of losing her job when the school closed. She spoke of Lisa's struggle to find new employment, the relentless search that ended in despair and homelessness. Lisa didn't choose this life, Mark, Anna said, her eyes locking onto his. She tried everything she could to stay afloat, but the system failed her. She's not a parasite. She's a person who's had everything taken from her. Mark was silent, absorbing her words. Anna saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Remorse, perhaps, or the beginnings of understanding. She told me that she doesn't want charity, Anna continued. She just wants people to see her, to understand that she's more than a statistic. She wants dignity, not pity. Mark leaned back, his face contemplative. I guess I've been so focused on the idea of self-reliance that I forgot about the human aspect. I didn't see her as a person, just a problem. That's exactly it, Anna said, her voice softening. We can't lose sight of the humanity in others. Not everyone has the same opportunities or the same support systems. Empathy isn't a weakness, it's a strength. It's what makes us human. Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. I see your point. I've been so caught up in my own beliefs that I didn't consider what it must be like for her, or for you. Anna reached out and took his hand. I love you, Mark, and I know you're a good person, but we need to approach this together with compassion. We can make a difference, even if it's just a small one. He looked at her, the determination in her eyes piercing through his defenses. "What do you want me to do?" "Let's start by helping where we can," Anna suggested. "There are local shelters and charities that need volunteers. We can learn more about the issues and see how we can contribute. It's not just about giving money, it's about giving time and showing that we care." Mark nodded slowly, the weight of her words sinking in. "All right, I'll give it a try. For us." A wave of relief washed over Anna. She squeezed his hand. "Thank you, Mark. It means a lot to me." Over the next few days, they sought out local organizations and found a shelter that welcomed their help. They spent their afternoons serving meals, listening to stories, and understanding the struggles of those they met. Mark was initially reserved, but as he interacted with the people at the shelter, his perspective began to shift. One evening, as they walked back to their hotel, Mark turned to Anna. "I talked to a man today who lost his job after an injury. He's been trying to get back on his feet, but without a permanent address, it's nearly impossible to find work. It's eye-opening." Anna smiled, seeing the change in him. "It is. And it's why we need to keep doing this. Not just for them, but for us too." Mark nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I get it now. It's not about fixing everything overnight. It's about showing up, being present, and offering what we can." "Exactly," Anna said, feeling a renewed sense of hope. "We're making a difference, one step at a time." Together, they were finding a way to bridge the gap between their ideals and the reality around them. And in doing so, they were rediscovering each other, forging a deeper connection grounded in empathy and shared purpose. Mark and Anna walked into the bustling community center, their hands filled with bags of food and supplies. The air was filled with the hum of conversation and the clatter of activity as volunteers and homeless individuals interacted. This was their third visit, and the environment was becoming familiar. "Let's start with the food line," Anna suggested, nodding towards the area where meals were being prepared and distributed. Mark agreed, following her lead. As they served meals, they listened to the stories of those who came through the line. An older man shared his journey from losing his job to living on the streets. A young woman spoke about escaping an abusive relationship only to find herself without a roof over her head. Each story was a thread in a larger tapestry of struggle and resilience. "Thank you," one man said as Mark handed him a plate. "It means a lot to have a hot meal and someone who cares." Mark smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest that he hadn't expected. "You're welcome. We're happy to help." After the meal service, they moved to the distribution area where clothes and personal items were handed out. Anna found herself talking to a mother with 2 small children, helping them pick out warm jackets and shoes. "These will be perfect for my kids," the mother said, her eyes welling up with gratitude. "Thank you so much." Anna knelt down to the children's level, smiling. "I'm glad we could help. Stay warm, okay?" Mark watched Anna, admiration growing as he saw her interact with the families. She had always been the compassionate one, but now he understood the depth of her empathy. He realized how much he had to learn from her. Throughout the day, Mark found himself drawn into conversations. He listened to a man named Ray, who had lost everything after a severe illness left him unable to work. Ray spoke about the difficulty of navigating the social services system and the stigma he faced daily. "It's like you become invisible," Ray said. "People see you, but they don't really see you." Mark nodded, feeling the weight of Ray's words. "I'm sorry you've had to go through this. It's not right." Ray shrugged. "It is what it is, but having places like this, and people like you and your wife, it makes a difference." Mark's perspective was shifting. Each story he heard added a new layer to his understanding. He had always believed in personal responsibility, but now he saw how systemic failures and unforeseen circumstances could derail even the most determined individuals. As the day wound down, Anna and Mark found a quiet corner to rest. They watched as the center continued to buzz with activity, volunteers packing up and families preparing to leave. "This place has really opened my eyes," Mark admitted, his voice thoughtful. "I thought I knew how the world worked, but I was missing so much." Anna reached out, squeezing his hand. "I'm glad you're seeing it. These people need our empathy and support, not judgment." Mark nodded, feeling a sense of clarity. "I've been wrong, Anna. I've been so focused on my own views that I forgot to see the humanity in others. But being here, listening to their stories, it's changed me." Anna smiled, her heart swelling with hope. "That's all I wanted, Mark. For us to understand and help in any way we can." The journey back to their hotel was filled with quiet reflection. Mark felt a deep sense of humility and gratitude. He was grateful for Anna's patience and for the opportunity to grow and change. In the weeks that followed, they continued their volunteer work, integrating it into their lives. They attended meetings, helped organize drives, and provided hands-on support. Each day brought new challenges and rewards, and each experience deepened their connection to each other and the community. Mark found himself transformed by the work. He no longer saw the homeless as faceless statistics, but as individuals with rich, complex lives. He developed a deeper sense of empathy and a commitment to advocacy. Anna and Mark's relationship grew stronger. They navigated their differences with renewed understanding and respect. Their shared experiences brought them closer, forging a bond that was both resilient and tender. Their life wasn't perfect, and challenges still arose, but they faced them with a unified front. They had discovered a new path, one that was guided by compassion and empathy. It was a journey that would continue to evolve, leading them to unexpected places and deeper connections. As they stood on the steps of the community center one evening, watching the sun set over the city, Mark turned to Anna and smiled. "Thank you for pushing me to see things differently." Anna leaned into him, her heart full. "Thank you for being willing to change." Together they walked forward, ready to face whatever came next, knowing that they were stronger and more compassionate for having taken this journey. We've reached the end of today's video. I hope these touching stories have resonated with your hearts and brought you a few moments of reflection. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our future content. Thank you for always supporting and being with us. See you in the next video, and have a wonderful day.